been wondering because you can practice so many kind of specialties within therapy, right? Do you have any that you either are interested in pursuing and or do? So, like I've done
Yeah.
EMDR for one is
Yes.
one of the things. So
Well, I do EMDR. Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah. So I, for years, worked with families and teens, and then that kind of branched off into like couples. So families going through, teens getting hospitalized, teens having depression, big behaviors, substance use, families struggling with substance use, families struggling with separation, families struggling with, multiple layers of mental health challenges. And I mean, I absolutely love working with teens and young adults. It's so, I feel so honored. But then I love kind of having a little bit of everything, right? Like, love working with adults, even some seniors, right? It's beautiful. The modality that I work from it's called DBT, Dialectical Behavioral Therapy, and CBT, and I work with a lot of depression, anxiety, panic attacks, suicidal thoughts, right? People who are really, really going through it, PTSD, trauma.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. I mean, therapy is so transformative, and I am just like along for people's ride. It's really special to me to be able
really
to do
amazing what you're doing. I'm wondering, like you said, DBT and CBT,
Yes.
and I know cognitive behavioral therapy. What's
That's
the difference?
CBT.
Yeah, and what's dialect?
Dialectical behavioral
Yeah,
therapy.
what
I
is
know
that?
it's a big fancy word that is not as scary as it sounds. So DBT it's kind of a one-off from CBT. It pulls a lot from CBT. So,
Okay.
So in CBT we have cognitive behavioral therapy. The cognitive part is like our thoughts, right? This the stinking thinking. What's going on up top?
Yeah.
The behaviors is how do we, if we change our thoughts, then our behaviors change.
Yeah.
And then the therapy, right? The T, that's the therapy.
Got it.
So we can do things to change our thinking. That changes our behaviors.
Right.
That changes our life. That's the goal, right?
Sure.
With DBT, it's very similar. So the dialectics are, it's this really amazing way of thinking in life. So dialectics are everywhere. I can be really not in it today. I don't want to try today. And I'm going to show up.
Okay.
Can both exist?
Yes.
Yes.
100%.
When we get in our mindset, we feel like we have to pick one. And there's a but, right? When we're thinking on a daily basis, how often do we say but? Like, I don't want to do it, but I have to. Well, but just negated that you're going to just force yourself to do something that you don't want to do.
It takes the potential joy out of something.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Or the meaning.
Or like I can, and you can think of they're everywhere, right? I can be depressed and I can experience joy.
Yes. That's that's almost sounds in a weird way more powerful if you can learn it even than CBT. Although CBT, I guess you'd use them sometimes for different things.
Yeah. So so if we look at the dialectics in our life, right, we can be, there's the dialectics are multiple truths can exist. There's not one absolute truth. There's not one right way of being. I can be, all the things that I am feeling are valid and okay. And even just that, how often do we invalidate ourselves, right? I can't feel this way because that's wrong. I feel like a failure. I have guilt about feeling like a failure. And therefore, right, I could fail at this math test. I failed this math test. Wow, bombed it. I'm a failure. Well, I can feel like a failure, and I can also be a successful person.
That's an incredibly...
It's so powerful.
Powerful and maturing thing. Just so healthy to be able to get somebody there. And I imagine, and can probably even just self-analyze and be like, that'd be pretty hard and take a lot of practice.
Very hard. It's also hard.
Really good.
I could fuck up hard at work. Like I really messed up. And I can turn it around. I can show up tomorrow and I can try my best. So,
That.
yeah. So there's these kind of chapters of DBT. There's, how effective am I in my relationships? Interpersonal effectiveness, right? That's like a whole section of DBT is interpersonal effectiveness. How well am I functioning in my relationships?
So that will
Everywhere.
take a
That's a whole
a real honest self-aware person, right? To take it back to that first
not
question.
that you don't have to be self-aware. That's what DBT is for. Is you can develop this.
Sure.
And if my relationships are constantly in conflict with others, I'm not super effective, right? If I'm not being honest with people and I'm keeping everything in, then I'm not being super effective in my rate if I'm avoiding conflict. And so there's specific skills then under that, like, interpersonal effectiveness to work on. Emotion regulation, right? Am I able to regulate my emotions?
Totally. Sometimes.
Distress tolerance. That's a whole portion of DBT, is being able to manage yourself when you get really, really distressed.
Yeah.
What do I do when I get really distressed? Do I lose it? Do I slam doors? Do I yell? Do I feel like harming myself? Do I feel like harming other people, right? Do I want to be self-destructive and take the house down, right? Or can I calm myself down and do these steps to not implode?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's specific things to do in that moment. So DBT kind of has this really nice roadmap of like, okay, I can plug the right skill in at the right moment, and it's very, very effective. It's empirically researched, and it's very effective for people that have, that I think anybody could benefit from it, but specifically for people that are struggling with their mental health or their relationships and their communication, it's phenomenal.
I imagine anybody who has any sort of even little T trauma, like
yes. Oh, look at you, little T trauma, big T trauma.
Jared's in the
I've been
culture,
going to
dude.
therapy. I've been working on my
you.
stuff.
Jared's a huge advocate.
I am a huge advocate. It's just because
that's wonderful.
people have, and they've also just like consistently tried to diagnose me, and so like, I mean, told you need to go check out, and if you're bipolar too, and then I go to 3 different people, and they're like, no.
Yeah,
but
it's there's some inconsistencies in the I will say though, it's a journey, right? Like
Sure.
your path, if you're invested in yourself and your mental health, it's a lifelong journey. You're the only one stuck with you, right? Like forever.
I gotta do me right.
Was it a therapist that said that you were bipolar?
No. It was a person that suggested I was bipolar too, and then my therapist, my doctor, and anyway, all were like, "This is not. You've been coming to me for a long. There's nothing that makes me feel that way."
And there's sometimes, so for some people, a diagnosis feels so good. They're like, I really need to know what I am, and they're diagnosis fishing, and they're like, I looked this up, right? Tell me I have these symptoms.
Right.
I
Give
can
me
tell you all
closure
these.
on my ideas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or sometimes people have no idea, and they're like, I just want to know what's wrong with me, because if that's the starting point, I can work on it. And then, and I totally get that, right? Like, if I can't figure out what I'm coming in with, I need help with that. And then sometimes people are like, I don't want a diagnosis. I don't want to think I have something wrong. And the reality is, you're going to do these things regardless, right? Like, there's going to be a treatment, whether, and especially with something like bipolar, of course, there needs to be like a specific kind of therapy and support. But at the end of the day, right, it's what's in the best interest of the client.
Right.
And so sometimes people come in and they're like, I feel so relieved that now I know that I'm on the spectrum. I have wondered my whole life, and I finally know, and thank you, right? Like, now I know what I can do, because this is so hard for me. I just don't get why this
told me
is
that
so
one
hard.
too. Remember that one? Someone told me
that.
I was on the spectrum, and I was like, well, I better check that out.
People just throwing shit at you. They're
so
like,
Don't think you're on
maybe
the
this.
No, I went, no, we checked it out. I'm
Maybe
not
that.
remotely close on the test or anything, but we did it.
No.
We tried. I was
You're
like,
like,
well,
you're
maybe.
just-
I mean,
You're
maybe
not
I'm
on
just.
the spectrum.
I just need some reason to know why you're bugging the shit
Yeah,
out of me all the
gosh.
time.
Why are you so weird,
If
guy?
we can just put a label on it, it'll make me feel better.
You-
I'm all Jared. Yeah, he sucks, but he's fucking bipolar, so it doesn't matter.
You guys got me on my soapbox.
He's not even
No,
a human
Take me
anymore.
that's
on-
why you're here. I like it.
Take me off the soapbox.
It's also incredibly fascinating because I am like very passionate about it, just because like mental health stuff ran in my family, and And then
By the way, it runs in
everybody's
everybody's family.
totally.
For people to say like, "Oh, we have an uncle who had addiction." It's like, no. Everybody has had it. Like, there is something everywhere that even if you don't know, like, it was happening.
Yeah,
probably somewhere.
nobody's totally immune to it.
Yeah.
But oh gosh, no, I just enjoy hearing about it. All those tools are so fascinating in the way they work. It's like I could endlessly talk, and like I just want to learn all of those things because they're all helpful.
And me too. And that's why I'm like, I get so excited when I talk about therapies, and I feel like I could just nerd out about it all day. Probably you guys with coffee, right? Like I could talk about it and nerd out about it. And the cool thing about this industry, like this field, is that I will never be done learning.
It's constantly evolving.
Will never be. There's always something to learn. There's always something to improve on. And that's exciting for me as a therapist. I never pretend that I know it all or have it all together, right?
I don't want to hijack because I know you have questions, but I'm also like sitting here as somebody who's like been researching all of I mean, we have maps in town and all those studies that are working really well for the future, right? With the psychedelic assisted therapies. And I mean, I imagine, because it's theoretically not legal yet for you to look at, but I mean, have you spent time looking at some of those things and any of the research just because it's interesting?
I mean, I am so open to whatever, like to each their own, right? Like if somebody if it's working for people and it's, that's fantastic.
Right.
Like that's awesome. If that's something that somebody wants to do, great.
Yeah.
I personally haven't had, I don't work there, have any experience with that, but I think it's awesome. I think anything that can help people,
right,
fantastic.
Right. Back to your stance of non-judgmental. I want to help. Like, it totally makes sense. Yeah. Go. I've been just going.
No, that's the lesson within the lesson, which is you're so open and you're so focused on the outcome, which the outcome is helping people, I don't know what you would like, how you would roll it into a mission statement or something, or like whatever's going to help people, that's great. And it doesn't have to be my way. It could be somebody else's way. It could be that way. And I think that's something that I just wanted a little learning lesson. I just wanted to kind of bottle it up and just package it and put it out there. That perspective is amazing because you're kind of removing the ego from your work to where it's like, my practice isn't about me, and we see that in our stores. Like, it's not about us, it's about the guests, and it's not about myself, it's about the organization. And I think for a lot of people, that could make their work life or projects just so much more enjoyable, but also open to a little bit more creativity. Because once, I know for me in the past, like when my ego has gotten in the way, those are the times when I get in my biggest ruts. The times when I've had it all figured out are the times when I do my worst work and I feel the least creative because there's, everything is known at that point and there's no growing to be had.
Well, and our stuck points, everybody gets stuck in the same things that we get stuck in, right? Like our patterns repeat themselves. And so thank you for saying that. But also, I really think that my approach is that I am going to help you get whatever you need. And who am I to get in the way of your recovery or anything, right? Like anybody coming in to talk to me, I want to make sure that I am providing the absolute best care that I can. And if I'm not the right person, I'm going to find that person for you. If I am the right person, I will do everything in my power to help you. And if there's something that I can change or adapt or know more about or whatever, please tell me. Because I want what's in your best interest.
Right.
And therapy at the end of the day is just this is the container for real life.
It does give you so many clear things to work on though. And I do appreciate that. Right. Cause I do need, like, as a ADHD person, we had Nick on, it was so, when he was like, look, I need to know the parameters. Like I need to know what I need. Like I need to know certain things so that I can like systematize them and work on them. And so for me, it's really helpful to know specifically what's going on, not like symptomatically what's going on, like, oh, you're not doing this and you suck. It's like, no, this isn't happening. And this is like the deep reason for it. I'm like, oh, that makes a lot. I can work on that.
Yeah.
I can't work on like You want me to put that down right there every time, like that thing? Yeah. And it might be like a couple inches off in the salt shaker, right? Or something like that. That's not terribly important to the big picture for me, so I don't understand, but I'll put it there. I know I'm not doing it perfect, but why does that matter? Oh, tell me the deeper reason why that matters, and then I can have
the systemic issues, right? Like when
Yeah.
you, again, like when you like look under the belly of the beast and you're like, oh, there, okay, got it. Like
Yeah.
there's these
Thank you.
issues going on here that you can't see on the surface, and there's
Right.
no way you could see it. Yeah.
Right, and those are the things, just to go back to competition, it's like I lived in a small town, and I was getting, you're the best by far. This is awesome. You're killing it. And you go in there, and I'm like, literally one of the people, in my naivety and also immaturity, they're like, what's the hardest thing about being a barista? And in my shop, I was like, the only thing I know is what I know in my shop. And I was like,
Yeah.
I am tenfold better than anybody else at this. I can do it by myself. I was like, nothing. And I got last place at the competition.
Yeah.
But and some people in the audience laughed at me, and I was like, it was a genuine response because I didn't know what I didn't know at all, and it was weird because I was totally answering honestly. I wasn't even trying to be like an arrogant asshole. I was just like, I cannot think of one thing that's hard about what I know about being a barista right now. It's so amazing.
That was so cool.
And then went straight into a train wreck that was funny.
It was good to watch.
I'm sure it was not in the moment. But
No. It was actually, I was shaking and very nervous.
It was
but
funny for everybody else watching.
I knew I was train wrecking,
good
and
vibe.
I made it fun and funny. I was like,
that
I
guy's
owned the funniness
hilarious.
and
so
the failure.
you had to figure out how to cope in that situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it just like not have to humiliate yourself, even though it was
So
humiliating.
I flipped it on the audience. I flipped it on the MC.
Oh,
I just did the whole classic like
class clown.
clown vibe. I was like,
Yeah.
this is what we're doing.
That was I think that was what was so attractive to you, for me, or about you. I was like, that dude's just rolling with it.
He can just do it.
I was like, if I was up there, it'd be a full-blown nightmare, but he's just going. He's just smiling.
That's what I had to learn. It's because I was never taught, right?
Well, you had to figure out how to do that, probably,
much
especially
everything.
with ADHD and feeling like you couldn't focus on things. You have to adapt and find things that work for you to get your needs met.
All coping.
Yeah, all coping.
And then the other part with all that is just, I grew up in a place where if you took that medication, that something was wrong with you too. It was like reinforced, so I actually avoided taking it forever.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, and had tons of weird shame about it. I was like, well, maybe I just need to take it for a little while till I get better. And finally, I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. Take ADHD medication. But that's like 2 years old of me feeling properly confident and just taking it consistently.
Yeah.
Which is so like, there's nothing wrong with that, people, by the way. There's literally nothing wrong. It's like, if you need vitamin C because you don't eat enough stuff, take vitamin C. Like, eat some oranges, whatever. You know, like, it isn't that hard.
Well, and I always encourage people to like ask questions, like I think medication is really stigmatized and scary when you look up online all of the things that could go wrong and like the things that, the blogosphere is saying about how you're wrong and there's all these, things put on you.
You're
these
taking
projections.
meth?
Yeah, right.
They do that a lot. You're just taking meth.
I'm just up to my meth dose today. Yeah.
That's so funny.
No, but like ask your doctor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like ask the people in your life that can, really give you the proper information that's not online.
And give you your best meth.
I just picture her asking, how's Jared doing? He's on meth.
It's
Life's pretty hard. He's just...
I got him to stop taking his meth because it's addicting.
Yeah, life's
But now
easy
he's
for
crazy.
you. Your business partner's not on meth. Of course you're doing well.
You know what? He has to be.
Yeah.
Okay?
I'm supposed to be on slow release meth all day. Hey, I'm better for it. I can articulate better now. Thank you.
We
Thank you
love
very much.
meth, Jared.
You love meth. Oh my gosh. Wait, okay, so we said the term EMDR like 3 times.
Yeah.
Maybe. What if can you tell people a little bit about EMDR and like why you might suggest somebody use it?
Yeah.
And I know it's like maybe a little complicated, but whatever. Your best.
Yeah. So EMDR is a treatment for trauma, but it can also help a number of things for people, like a bad memory or things from your childhood that you've gone through. And I kind of like to just not go super into it. And if it works for you, great. Try it. Find somebody that does it and try it. And if it doesn't, that's okay.
Got it.
And for some people it's super, super effective. And for some people it's not their jam. That's okay.
And it's eye movement desensitization
and
reprocessing.
good job, gold star. I was gonna let you go.
But yeah,
go for
do you
it.
do the vibrating hands? Or
I
do you do
don't.
the light
I
thingy
do the.
or whatever,
I just.
or the TikTok?
I have like a little wand.
Yeah, there's a number of ways to do it.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
for anybody who hasn't done it, it's in some way you're moving your eyes back and forth, and
It's called bilateral stimulation.
There
If
you
you have both sides of the hemisphere processing, you are able to hopefully reprocess the memory or the trauma in a way that your brain doesn't respond to have the same kind of fight, flight, freeze response when you think about it. And so you can, it doesn't take the problem away. What happened to you is still what happened to you, but it does make it so that your brain doesn't have the fight, flight, freeze response as intensely. And so you can live a better quality of life.
yeah. And I have experienced that.
Yeah,
For sure.
it
You know,
sounds
because you do like a
you
start
have
with
gone
a
through
X
it.
amount of percentage of reaction and then
Yep.
go
Yep.
through it and then reassess. And even if you do it a few times over to work through it,
Yeah.
the percentage definitely goes down.
Yeah.
And again, yeah, sure. It isn't, I think, for everybody, but when it is, it totally is.
It could be pretty life changing. So yeah.
It's helpful.
Yeah.
Cool. I just wanted to explain that because I said it earlier and
I know
somebody might be out there in the
kind of brought it up.
world sphere being like, what's EMDR?
So how is you what, a couple months into it now?
Yeah.
Maybe how has your life changed since you've decided to strike out on your own and create this entity?
Such a good question. My life I feel so much more like in the driver's seat. And it's interesting because as a therapist, you always have that, you know, you're in the driver's seat with your clients. I kind of sometimes even think I'm in the passenger seat. I'm riding shotgun on their journey, right? But I feel like I'm in the driver's seat of what I've always wanted to do. And I knew I wanted to be a therapist when I was like, 14.
That's cool.
It's really young.
lucky.
And I knew, at the time, I didn't know, and this kind of digresses, but I will bring it back.
Take your time.
But I I will say that I had a therapist tell me that she's like, I think you're gonna be a therapist when you grow up, and I was like, nah, I don't want to do school because I hated school, and I was just not inspired academically. Nothing really like grabbed me. And so then I was like, well, I kind of want the easy way out. So maybe I'll go to community college, putter around, just figure out what I want to do. And then I got my esthetician's license and, lived in San Francisco. And then I was like, you know what? I think I still really got to do this therapy thing. So I went back to school, finished undergrad, did a bunch of stuff and figured out how to get myself into graduate school, went to graduate school, did all the, 3,000 hours, took me quite a long time, COVID hit, had a baby, did all that. But now that I am working for myself, I kind of look back at this journey that I've gone through to get me here, and it's so meaningful. And it's so like, it really, I feel a lot of pride in what I've gone through to get to this point. And I think the future seems so bright. I have so much hope for how many people that I can help that come through the door, right? And that call me and want support and the practice and hiring therapists and hiring really amazing people to help other people.
Right.
And just the ripple effect that can have in a community, and it makes me so hopeful. So.
What does it look like for you to create an experience? So, we talk about creating experiences all the time for people who walk through our doors. It sounds like you're doing a lot of the work on telehealth right now, but you have a physical space.
I do.
What is
almost 2 offices?
Hey,
seriously?
I know. I'm getting
Popping
another
deuces,
office.
dude.
I know.
How would it be different to come through your practice versus someone else's, or places you've been to in the past?
I think you can't go wrong. Like, there's so much help out there that if you're somebody that's going to come to my practice, I will make sure I do 2 assessments if I'm seeing a teen or somebody or a couple. I always make sure there are there's enough of an assessment so that I can make the most appropriate recommendation. And all an assessment is kind of a maybe a charged word, but it's really me getting a full idea of what somebody's coming in with and what somebody's needs are, and what do you need for your treatment and your therapy and your journey. And I am either definitely the person for that, or I can make these recommendations of what we can do, how many sessions I think you're going to need, and I kind of lay it out and I give you a here's what we think, do you agree with this? Help me help you, right? And oftentimes people are really receptive to that. People really want help when they're finally coming to therapy. It's been a long time overdue. And so people are really excited to like hit the ground running. And then it's like, oh, okay, we have to pump the brakes. We have to really slow down, and this can take a minute, and that's okay, right? It's a journey for sure. I see, Jared, I see your face.
Keeps going.
It keeps going. But there is kind of a point. I think there's this really nice sweet spot at like 3 months in. If somebody's been doing the work on themselves for like 3 months, and they've really invested in themselves, you see this shift. And I don't know if you can relate to that as maybe somebody who's like been through it, but it's this really nice, if you give that time, then you can see, okay, I definitely need this weekly support, or like, oh, I can go to every other week or monthly. Mm-hmm. But everybody's got stuff to work on. Even if you're doing really well, that's the time to come in. If you're doing really well and life is going good, sometimes that's the perfect time to like, okay, I can look at my childhood now because I have the capacity to. But people come to therapy when they're in crisis.
Yeah. People
come to therapy when the shit is hitting the fan and things gotta like, I need help now. And then it's this, it's this journey and process just to get to the work of your trauma and that kind of looking under the hood of what is going on, because you're just doing this weekly support that people need. And there's a time and a place for that, right? Like processing and unpacking somebody's childhood and what somebody's been through in their life. That is, some people aren't sometimes always ready for that when they first get to therapy. We have to address the here and now. What's going on for you? What's the crisis in the moment that's bringing you in? And then we get to the meaty stuff.
Oh, that totally makes sense. Yeah. I imagine, a lot of people, I mean, even like myself, like I don't even remember, like the specific reason I ended up going in the first place. I think, just had to do tying in with all sorts of different things. But at the end of the day, you're right. Like going when it was like feeling bad means kind of shotgunning a therapist, and they're going like, oh, where do I start? And what are you really here for that's underneath or behind that shotgun, like made that shotgun blast explode potentially.
Well, I'll name it. I'll say like, okay, so it sounds like there was a lot from the past that we could definitely go through, because I have a big like kind of checklist in my head. I mean, you could go through, a lot of therapists will like go through a checklist of things, and I'll have people fill out stuff, but I'll know kind of going in, okay, where, how much is this childhood stuff, how much of this was trauma stuff, or how much of this is right now, like how much of your depression is being impacted, over the course of the pandemic, right? Like by how much your life has changed. And it is not normal to be stuck in a home with your partner, your family, day in, day out. That is not something that couples are prepared for. That's not something that families were prepared for. And then having to work on top of that, or to be home and waiting for a stimulus check, that was really, really stressful.
Yeah.
Or to be a teen going through like not being able to see their friends, which,
nightmare.
That social emotional development is like key at that point. So yeah, the past year and a half it's definitely been pretty interesting in regards to therapy and what people are coming in with, where it's like triggered a bunch of stuff from the past, right? So
does it really?
Really?
Do you have I don't know if you'd call them employees or partners? How does that work?
So I am going to be having, hopefully by the end of the year, 1 or 2 therapists join me. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Pretty exciting.
How does that dichotomy work when you are all therapists, but it's your practice? I mean, there's, to me, the obvious part where like, this is mine and I get to hire you to be here because we theoretically have aligned values of some kind. But like, beyond that, are you theoretically like peers, or are you bringing in people to mentor? You know, like, how's
So
that
it can
work?
be both. It can
Yeah.
be like up and coming therapists, or it can be therapists that have something else on the side. The great kind of like one of the perks of this field is that you can do multiple things. So you
Sure.
could like be in academia, you could be in, you know, a supervisory role, you could be a business owner, and a therapist. You can work
Got
at,
it.
you know, a different program, but also have a private practice on the side. And so a lot of people, like, they don't want to market themselves. They don't want to have to, you know, be fielding phone calls and responding to emails. And they just want their, you know, I see my clients, I show up, I see my clients, and then I leave.
Got it.
And that, or I, you know, sign out. Now that we're talking about telehealth.
Yeah.
I click on and then I click off. And then the group practice can provide cool things like training opportunities and an office space, and you don't have to worry about paying the office space. Like the group practice can cover that.
Yeah.
But then you don't have to worry about like taking payment, and you know, the practice handles all of that, and
Got it.
you don't receive the full amount, but it's still enough that you feel like the work is really great and you have your practice, but you don't have to do all the
Right.
behind the scenes business side of it.
Yeah, that's actually really helpful. I
Let
was
me worry
wondering.
about that. I'll do the business side
Yeah,
of it.
totally.
Yeah.
And that's where that absolutely helps, because to me, I was trying to figure it out. I'm like, it feels like once you're to a theoretical level, with the exception of maybe years in, that you're kind of all peers with the same, you know?
And that's something beautiful too about
Yeah.
the field, is that I love working with awesome therapists.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I love working with therapists. I mean, you can, you know, only imagine I could talk about therapy all day long.
Yeah.
It's really cool, and it's I'm constantly learning.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, I have this really strong clinical foundation that is what I think you asked, like, what do I offer? Like clinically, super strong. If you're trying to figure out what your diagnosis is, if you're trying to figure out what you need, and I get the people oftentimes that have been to like 10 therapists.
Got it.
Right. And they're like, I have been referred to you because I've heard that you can help me figure out what's going on. So
That's awesome. That's just, I mean, that's strong in and of itself, right? Because, yeah, that's really helpful.
yeah.
Cool.
So clinically,
job.
that's my
Clinically, I'm a
sweet spot.
powerhouse.
Clinically?
Just throwing it out there.
It's badass.
I mean, I wake up in the morning, I piss excellence and perfection.
And I'll diagnose you.
Oh, man.
This is awesome. I'm so glad you came. And I'm
I'm-
also
yeah.
realizing that we could do this again.
I would love to do
You
this
know what I
again.
mean?
You guys, this is awesome.
You want to come on staff?
You want to come on?
You want to save all of our lives? Or because we all are pretty
everybody,
fucked up,
everybody
dude.
Yeah. Are you taking, last question, are you taking new clients all the time?
I am.
Or, okay.
Yeah,
cool.
I am taking new clients because I will be having some. There's always kind of revolving door. I have a wait list as well, or like if you need a specific day and time, or I can pair people with another really awesome clinician. So
Sweet.
Awesome.
We'll
Yeah.
put all the links to your stuff.
Thank you
awesome.
so
Check
much
it
for
out.
coming.
Thank
Yeah,
you for
this is
having
awesome.
me, you guys.
Really fun
I
conversation.
feel so like honored that I was on.
Great. Pleasure's all on
The
this
honor
side
is
of the
ours.
table. Thanks for listening, y'all. This podcast is an extension of our mission to inspire connection by creating memorable experiences. If you want to get more acquainted with what we do, you can go on over to catandcloud.com. There you'll find a little bit of everything. If you want coffee, we got coffee there. If you want to be directed to some other magic media, basically it's your hub for all things Cat and Cloud. If you want to dive in on a deeper level, we do have a Patreon. It's $5 a month, about the price of a latte each month. You get a peek behind the scenes of what we do here, unpacking some of the ideas that we talk about during this podcast, rants and raves, Q&As, Jared and I just talking shit together. Biased opinion, yes, but I think it's a lot of fun. So thanks for listening. Go out and inspire someone to do something amazing. Bye.